Hey y'all, and welcome to Politabrawl. My name is Brian, and Elise Stefanik does not hold back on this awful school president who has done nothing to push back against the rise of anti-Semitism on her own campus. Let's dive in.
Is calling for the genocide of Jews protected speech on your campus, starting with Haverford?
No, of course not.
And what disciplinary action has been taken or would be taken if someone made that call?
Representative, there have been no such calls, and we would use all of our disciplinary actions to follow through on any such call. I would never expect that to happen at Haverford, and if it would, we would deal with that swiftly.
Well, let me ask you a specific question then. There was a student group on Haverford's campus who called for the complete dismantling of the apartheid settler colonial state of Israel by all means necessary. What does by all means necessary mean to you?
Invoking that kind of terminology is repugnant because of what it can mean, and I will not.
So does that depend on the context?
I will not defend that statement.
So what disciplinary action was taken against that group or those individuals who made that call? Any disciplinary action? Was there any disciplinary action taken against that group or those individuals?
Those kinds of statements are.
I'm not asking you if they're repugnant. I'm asking about the disciplinary action. You were the one university president who failed to lay out if any disciplinary action has been taken, if any suspensions or expulsions. So I am asking you, was there any disciplinary action taken?
Disciplinary action can include expulsion and.
I'm not asking what it can include. I'm asking, was it taken?
I will not be talking about individual cases here, and I'm saying that that is.
So have there been any disciplinary actions taken by Haverford related to anti-Semitism? Any?
Disciplinary actions are absolutely in our work.
Have they been taken?
Against anti-Semitism.
Have they been taken by Haverford?
Yes, there have been some.
I want to ask you another example. There was a professor of mathematics and statistics who posted after the October 7th Hamas terrorist attacks, quote, "We should never have to apologize for celebrating these scenes of an imprisoned people breaking free from their chains. This was a historic moment to be recorded in their history books." Jewish students have reported that you said this post could be, quote, perceived in many ways. Does this post simply depend on the context, President Rabin? And were there any disciplinary actions taken against this professor?
Such posts have been incredibly harmful to our entire community, and I disavow them and that outcome for us.
Was there an investigation of the professor?
Investigations happen in all such cases.
So yes, in this case.
Investigations happen in all such cases, as I have said, and we follow.
This is a simple question. The other presidents are answering this straightforward as to disciplinary action. Again, these university presidents who are former presidents fail to answer these direct questions. In this case, was there disciplinary action taken or an investigation of this professor?
Respectfully, Representative, I will not be talking about individual cases.
Respectfully, President of Haverford, many people have sat in this position who are no longer in the positions as president of universities for their failure to answer straightforward questions. Another question I have, because this is a theme at Haverford, there was an administrator who said that, quote, "Racial minority students have never felt safe at Haverford, and that Jewish prospective students should not expect to feel safe and should instead be brave." This was according to litigation against your college. Was there any investigation into this administrator for making those statements?
That report does not reflect the administrators that I know who stand strongly with me and the entire college against anti-Semitism.
So that didn't happen, is your position? Was that statement not made by that administrator?
That statement does not comport with those administrators that I know.
I'm not asking if it comports with the administrators that you know. I'm saying, is it your testimony that that statement did not happen, even though it's coming out in litigation? So are you saying it did not happen?
What I am saying is that I cannot imagine that happening from those colleagues of mine.
Well, let me ask you, if it did happen, what disciplinary action would Haverford take against that administrator?
At Haverford, we do not tolerate discrimination or harassment or bias.
And what does that mean, not tolerate? Does that mean suspension, firing of that individual? What does that mean?
It means following all of our policies, which begin with investigation and then can lead to any of the aspects that you listed.
For the American people watching, you still don't get it. Haverford still doesn't get it. It's a very different testimony than the other presidents who are here today who are coming with specifics. So again, this is completely unacceptable, and it's why this committee has stepped in, because higher education has failed to address the scourge of anti-Semitism, putting Jewish students at risk at Haverford and other campuses across the country. I yield back.
Well, thank you, Ms. Stefanik, for calling out this absolute nonsense. And we've been seeing this time and time again across the country, all right, where our colleges are these terrible incubators of hatred and moral disgust. Let's see, I'm trying to think of a better way to say this, but hatred, just for lack of a better phrase, is the best way to describe it. They have been completely brainwashed by the idea of power dynamics. Therefore, they are supposed to hate people who have power and then pity the people who don't have it. Instead of, actually looking at history and giving it a good way to judge, they don't bother looking at nuance. They don't bother looking at reality. They only see the world through this paradigm of power. And that is a fundamentally flawed worldview, but that's exactly what this college wants to teach. Okay, so Ms. Stefanik, you are calling this out. Thank you for just showing this president to be full of nonsense. Or worse, this president actually knows what she's doing. Okay, this president actually knows what the program is. This president of, Haverford College does know what she's doing. She knows the current political climate, and she doesn't care. She doesn't care. All right, because if she cared, that means she's got to deal with a whole lot of firings and a whole lot of disciplinary action, a whole lot of, cane being raised by a whole lot of people who have graduated from there and then give money back to these colleges, because the people who have graduated from there, the people who teach there, the people who want to work there already believe this way. They are already anti-Semitic because of this ridiculous Marxist belief of power dynamics. So, Ms. Stefanik, you are technically wrong in the very last couple of sentences, not because your ideas are wrong, no, but because these places are with the program and they don't care. They do not care if the feds properly cut their funding. The Trump administration has already cut a whole lot of grants, particularly to Columbia College, and they all deserve it. But I think these cuts need to go much, much deeper. If these places want to continue to spew nonsense and turn out these terrible little monsters called graduates that believe in this borderline genocidal, maniacal nonsense, and I do understand the irony of wearing a Senate People of Rome shirt. Trust me, I'll get to that later, particularly when it comes to anti-Semitism. The difference is, I know what history looks like. I understand the nuances of the Roman Empire. I also know why it fell for a whole bunch of reasons. These students probably don't, and they don't understand that a similar problem is going to face them very, very soon, because a whole lot of grants from the federal government are likely going to go away by federal law. So it's good to hold their feet to the fire, but an even better example would be a current lawsuit that's going against this very college. Haverford, a 1,472 student, highly selective liberal arts school on the main line, was the only local college to receive an F on the most recent report card by the ADL for its response to anti-Semitism, a rating given to less than 10% of schools nationwide. An F rating. 10%. Do you know how awful you have to be in the bottom 10%, and in this case of a highly selective liberal arts school in Pennsylvania? Because remember, there's sort of a cradle of information. There's almost a crescent going from Pittsburgh all the way up into Boston. Then there's the Research Triangle down south in North Carolina. And then, of course, you have a handful of West Coast schools that, granted, there's a reason people jokingly call UC Berkeley Buzzerkley, mainly because they've lost their minds over there too. After all, woke comes from the Pacific Northwest. The origins of it are fascinating. But the origins of this nonsense is even worse. Yes, it comes from that very same train of thought that has slowly marched through the institutions, a long march, if you will. Very Marxist term, coming reference to Mao's long march through China as he escaped to the mountains, was able to regather his forces before he took over the rest of mainland China, or as I like to call it, West Taiwan. But the reality is, these Marxists have taken over schools at nearly every single level, and it's not just at our universities. These students who were just raising Cain during a professor's speech about anti-Semitism has permeated not just at the college level, but there is an undercurrent in our own culture against it. Hollywood is very weird when it comes to this area, so I don't think it's Hollywood's problem here. I think it's something that our children are primed for in our lower educations as early as kindergarten. They are primed for this Marxist drivel and nonsense because leftists have marched their way through the institutions and have captured nearly every single school system in America. There's a reason I'm a big fan of Hillsdale. They don't take any federal money. They're staunchly conservative and strictly constitutionalist, and they teach their students accordingly. I kind of wish I went there instead. But trust me, I know what a small school looks like. And we had our own problems at said small school, but nothing like what's being described here. And this president is in this terrible position, not President Trump, but the president of this school is in a terrible position where she knows that she has to defend it, or else she's either A, going to lose her job, or a whole bunch of people on her staff are going to lose their jobs, and she's going to have to deal with it. That's not good for any school to be in that position, to allow something as heinous as anti-Semitism to fester, take root, and become a black stain on your educational system. Again, if you want to talk about a black stain on history, do not look up what happened during the Roman Empire to the Jewish people, okay? It ain't good. I understand the irony here, but I also understand what's going on in our education system, and it must be dealt with. The Trump administration is doing the right thing and calling it out and even taking away money because of this nonsense. And Elise Stefanik is also doing the right thing in grilling this president and trying to make sure that there is a better way that this president refuses to address. That is how bad our education system is. I'm glad the Trump administration is finally doing something about it. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.